Yeah, I'm Matt from 6D. We are a computer vision company solving some of the hardest problems in AR that are really stopping AR apps from becoming engaging. And been working at this for, the company's pretty new, but the team, we've been working on this for 10 years or so now. And I want to sort of give you a sense of where AR is going, what's coming next, why some of these problems matter. Talk a little bit about us as a company, but more give you that sort of bigger picture trend, not just a company pitch. So anyone who's really sort of dug into AR is excited about it, not because it really is a new type of app, but it's actually a new medium. And it's pretty rare for new mediums to come along. And I guess the special thing about AR and VR to an extent is that it's extremely sensory and experiential. It's very much about where we're looking, where we are, the context of the place and the people that we're in at that time, and the connections and the relationships that we have. But nearly every AR app today, if you've tried it, it's like an island. It's like I can just go to my table and play a little game on that table, but that's about as far as it goes. And getting beyond that problem and building that infrastructure to connect one app to another is quite a difficult problem. And a lot of the solutions, the way you solve that problem, need to live outside your phone or outside your headset. And the sort of need for the cloud to store that data or make those connections has led to the term AR cloud starting to become popularized, and it's really a sort of a catch-all phrase for not just the cloud in the sense that we save our content there, but it's what are those things that are specific to AR, uniquely to AR, that connect those, connect our devices to each other. So in practical terms, it looks kind of like this. Each of those little squares is coming from a different, SLAM system. That's the computer vision technology that enables AR. And it's like 3 different point clouds. And the AR cloud is the system that runs to really synchronize those and save that information and keep it in place. And why is this important is that a lot of things that we just expect AR to do, it doesn't do today. We find as people try it, you kind of think that if there's a digital thing here in front of me, I kind of expect it to behave as if it's a real thing. If I go away and come back tomorrow, I want it to still be there. If I have a virtual pet and it goes to sleep in the corner, in the morning when I come back, it should still be there, and that doesn't work today. If I put something there, I expect everyone else who's got that AR app running should be able to see that thing at the same time. And the funny thing is we use this term multiplayer to refer to multiple people playing a game together. But that's really, that term is kind of a legacy of the fact that because AR relies on 3D, a lot of the 3D tools come out of the gaming industry, and a lot of the people creating AR apps originally came from gaming. The term multiplayer has kind of stuck. But if you think about it, what it really means, you could use words like social or sharing or communicating to describe exactly that same sort of experience. So for AR to move away from being just an entertainment type of experience into something that lets us communicate with each other and connect with each other in new ways, it's these type of technologies that are going to enable that. So it's quite fundamental. And the next type of thing that you need is, if you've ever started an AR Kit app or an AR Core app and had some structure of the real world around you, you find pretty quickly that it kind of lives in its own virtual space that just happens to be in that same physical space. So if you want to do something like in this slide with the Minecraft built on top of the coffee table and on the couch, what you really need is a 3D model of that of that scene, and you need that 3D model to then be placed on top of the real scene, so that if I go back. You have that model of the coffee table on the couch, and then you can digitally put the content in place. Now that's kind of cool, but if you think it through, where that leads to is to really start to make AR work, you don't just need a 3D model of a couch, you need a 3D model of the whole world. And that's indoors, outdoors, and at a high enough resolution for AR content to feel like it's part of the world. So these problems, solving them isn't just like, here's a little cool algorithm or here's a cool little trick. It's a really big problem, bigger than Google Maps in that sense. So that's sort of a good news and a bad news story. It's a huge opportunity for tons of different companies to sort of invent things and succeed in this place. But it's not going to happen tomorrow, and it's going to take a lot of time and effort to build it out. When you've got that model of the world, what you can do is start to use occlusion and physics. So the physical content can start to actually, the digital content can actually interact with the physical world. And I can show a little demo of this app. This is some sample app that we ship with our SDK to developers, where you can throw digital balls around and you start to see them bounce off the physical structure in real time. And the chicken and egg problem that's always stopped those type of apps from working is that you've either needed a custom hardware in the past, like some sort of HoloLens or a depth camera or a LiDAR, or you've needed to use photogrammetry and take like 1,000 pictures of the room and upload them to the cloud and process it for a while, and then you get a model back. And so no one was ever going to go through all that effort when there were no apps or use cases for it. And no one was really going to build the apps that took advantage of the 3D world while building the model was so hard. And so solving this problem was kind of the seed that led us to start 6D, where my co-founder is a professor at Oxford University, and his lab had really solved a way to treat a regular smartphone camera as a depth camera. And so we can build those models in real time on any phone at really large scale. So once you have that sort of capturing the model of the couch, you then need to build that up to really big scenes. And it's a bit hard to see, but this is one of our engineers went for a walk out of our office and did a lap of South Park in San Francisco. So end to end, that's a couple of 100 yards. This little green bit here is literally the office, so that this couch here is going to just here, and so we walked out and built a whole model of the space. So this is how we're going to start to get models of the whole world built, just by building it into apps, and we start to crowdsource all that data into a single persistent model that's always there. Now, that physics and occlusion with the world is really important and and difficult problem to solve, but generally when people start playing with it, they immediately go, well, look, that's not enough. You need to solve another hard problem, which is that whenever my dog walks in front of the content, or I walk in front of it, or I'm on a crowded street, moving objects always tend to, they don't occlude properly. And so that's been a problem that's really, really hard. And so we expect that before the end of the year, at least we'll start showing this sort of stuff off, where in real time, the system will be able to identify, all the different moving things in the scene and have the digital content be occluded correctly with that scene. And when you can achieve that, you start to get a user experience in the app or in the headset where the content, even if it's a cartoon character, it behaves as if it's real. And so you start to get that suspension of disbelief, and the AR apps that you build start to behave the way that we kind of always wanted them to imagine. But all that isn't enough. That's all cool tech. It all gives a great user experience. It's important. I think it's the first things that need to be solved. But the next part is that the computer vision systems itself is a user experience. Just because something can be made to work doesn't mean people will actually use it or should use it. And the real, concrete illustration of that was pretty much every AR app that's out there today could have been made to work, or you could have built it probably about 6 or 7 years ago. Qualcomm's Vuforia and other systems all had the same type of computer vision, same type of graphics, worked great. It was just that you needed to print out a piece of paper and put it on the ground or pre-program an image. And so you had something that technically worked, but it wasn't until ARKit and ARCore came along that it just worked. in that you could just open your phone, turn it on, and it just instantly worked. And we're seeing that same, all those previous examples that I showed of some of those problems, there's a real varying mix of everyone saying that their technology works, but very few of them actually just work from a point of view of someone who isn't a computer vision engineer. So getting over that, that problem underneath, it's still not enough. Because privacy really starts to matter. If we worry about what Facebook's doing with their Instagram feed, imagine what would happen what Facebook would do if they had a 3D mesh of our home, of our kids' bedroom, private spaces. That data is kind of sucked up, potentially sucked up in the background, and how that's managed is going to be really, really sensitive issue. I can talk, Q&A, we don't really have enough time to go into it, how we're doing it today, but some of the stuff that, our approach is that anything that we do capture into our cloud, firstly, we anonymize it, so we can't even tell where, which part of the world it's coming from, but most importantly, we don't save kind of image data. All we save is these machine-readable point clouds and descriptions of the point clouds that, to the best of current science, it cannot be reverse engineered into a human readable image. So that's just sort of one, there's a whole long list of factors that are going into this. But I think that some of these AR products that are going to emerge over the next 5 years, the big platforms today that are built on advertising and taking that data and using it are going to have some real, even more difficult policy questions and trust questions that they're going to have to work through with all of us. And this is my favorite slide. It's like, really at the end of the day, there is no cloud. It's just someone else's computer. So if any data that's been captured, whose computer is it sitting on? Do you trust them? But even that isn't quite enough, because where this all ends up is it's not just, today AR is really kind of a feature in an app. But as we get more, down the road towards headsets and glasses, as we get bigger apps that have a greater understanding of the world, we start to move from, operating systems, 5, 6, 10 years ago that were really a set of APIs for an application to understand, how to interact with the hardware and the user interface. And then when Amazon's web services came along, we had APIs that are more about shared services and cloud services. But the next set of APIs are going to be about understanding the real world, not just the structure of the world, but actually, is this a couch? Who are you? What's, from the expression on your face, what emotion are you projecting right now? Who else is in this space and what's the context and history there? And that set of APIs that helps our applications understand reality, that's going to be the operating system of, the next platform, this next structural shift that we're going through. But the purpose of all of this is really more than just, cool tech. It's, like that first slide at the beginning, AR really does have that potential to literally change how we see the world. And, it can unlock, entirely new ways of connecting with each other, new waves of creativity. That new medium is really an exciting, it's probably bigger than any of us, realize at this stage. So that's my last slide. So thank you. Happy to take as many questions as you like. And I won't run the demo live, but I can show it later to anyone just in the interest of time. You'll see that ball's up. Thanks.
Thank you. Just one question from me, and maybe I missed, sorry if I did. How do you work out changes in the real world? If you create a model, by definition, the real world changes all the time?
Yeah, so, this is talking a bit about 6D more than how others do it. We're able to build that mesh, like literally as fast as you can move your phone around and walk around. So, say I come to your, in your house one day and you're playing a game, and in the background we build a mesh of your living room, and then the next morning, someone moves the couch. The next day you open up the mesh, you download yesterday's mesh that was there, and the mesh won't be where the couch is. But literally as soon as you turn around and your phone kind of sweeps across, the mesh will be refreshed and updated with the new, the new position of that information. So they're things that we sort of say they're things that are static but can move, distinct from things that are moving all the time, like people or pets or vehicles or those sorts of things.
Very cool. We had one question here where we have this fancy throwable microphone.
What kind of an inflection point do you think we'll get to when you think the technology that you guys are working on would be something you want to put in a Unity, kind of like Vuforia has done, and kind of more commercially available to designers?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. I forgot the slide. The beta is available now. If you go to 6D.ai/beta, you can get and play with it. There's a Unity plugin, there's a Scene Kit version, Android's coming. In terms of like distribution and how, the partnerships that we're striking, we'll have some announcements, before the end of the year that should make you happy. And some of the customer deals that we've got will see us, in tens of millions of phones by next year, and enabling use cases that are, daily use type of things. We're not just hoping on another freak Pokemon hit. So.
Great. Another one over there.
I'm a little confused. You said you talked about the ambition of mapping the whole world. Would you have that ambition yourself? And is there some kind of like mining aspect? Do you have people contributing, or I'm not really understand. I don't understand how you mine, how you get.
How we get that data?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely an ambition of ours. Like, it's part of the reason we started the company. But even if we didn't exist, someone would have to do it. How we're going about getting that data is that our ability to build that mesh that I showed runs in the background invisibly, behind the app. So just say, we were powering Pokemon. As you play Pokemon, as you walk down the street, that mesh of that street would just be captured in the background and saved to our server, similar to Google Maps.
So it's kind of on a use-by-use basis. It's not...
Yeah, we don't send like teams of people out like Google Street View. So if there's somewhere that no one ever uses AR, we'll never get a map of that place.
I wonder if there's some way of incentivizing it or something.
Yeah, we don't.
Like mining or.
Yeah,
Come on, you want tokens.
Well, we don't want to do that. Yeah, I think that's a flawed approach. Like, everything we've seen is that those sort of incentives don't really drive the behavior. You actually want intrinsic motivations. So we're instead sort of partnering with application developers to build apps that people want to use, and the sort of mesh and the map data just gets captured, invisibly.
Oh. No, never mind. I think I thought something. If nobody has a question, I have one. What's your sense of the current state of AR? And I'm sorry, it's
a market?
It's high level, but we've seen so many hype cycles, and VR was hot, and VR is no longer hot, and then AR.
Yeah. So I've been doing AR for 10 years. So this is my third hype cycle for it. So I'm kind of cynical about the whole thing. I think that anyone who's building an AR experience that's based on broad consumer adoption, and they're going to monetize by getting a little bit of money from lots and lots of people, don't start that business today. Wait a few years. I think that there are, market segments that are really viable today. Anything that's like tools or enablers. You're solving some of the deep tech problems. There's a lot of money, today for that'll only grow. There's a ton of opportunity in the enterprise space. All the trials over the last 5 years have all been successful, and they're all like rolling out to like tens of thousands of headsets and 6-7 figure deployment projects. Lots of those happening. The other thing is don't confuse a phone-based AR with headset-based AR as a market, because you're going to build completely different products, for completely different customers. So don't think you're going to build a mass consumer game for a headset. don't try and build like an all-day use enterprise factory pick and pack app for your phone. Yeah, they're different things.
Great, and you think that's a market where startups can compete versus, you know, a Microsoft?
It's yeah, it depends what type of. I mean, the deep. I guess the one thing we're seeing is just. I think even with all the attention it's got, all of the major platform companies, and we know them all at the executive levels. I don't think it's really widely known how committed some of these, or all of these platforms are to see AR all the way through. VR, Facebook's the only one really that's talking about it. And as a startup, you need to really understand what the big platforms are doing, because you're either going to die by going after something that's not a market, or you're just going to blindly wander into something that's just natural for a Google or an Apple to do themselves. But I think if you can thread that needle, it's going to be such a big shift, and there's going to be so much opportunity there that startups will do very well.
Great, really interesting. Thank you so much for telling us the story.